Hey guys, my name is Kylie and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we are talking all about setting your makeup. There are two main products that you can set your makeup with. One would be a setting powder and one would be a setting spray. A setting powder and a setting spray basically have the same outcome. A powder is best suited for oily skin and a spray is best suited for dry skin. If you have dry skin, you don't want to keep layering too many powders on your face. That'll just can potentially make it even more dry. So a spray might be your best bet. If you're oily, you're typically going to want a setting powder because the powder is going to soak up all those oils for you. I have dry skin myself and I do use both. I use a setting powder and a setting spray. So I will show you later in the video how I do both of those. Let's talk about setting powders first. When you use a setting powder, before you use a setting powder, you make sure that you have placed all your creams and liquids down first. Your foundation should be down, your concealer should be down. I've already got mine all done, my foundation and concealer. If you're going to be doing cream contour, make sure that's down. Do not set your face with a setting powder until all of your creams are down. If you put a cream and then a powder on top of that and then a cream on top of that powder, you're just going to get a muddy, cakey mess and it is not going to work. If you want to be using a setting spray, you can use that throughout the layers. So you can put your foundation, put a layer of spray, then your concealer, do a layer of spray. I know that seems a little bit of overboard, but you can layer the sprays with your creams, but not your powders with your creams. So hopefully that makes sense. So first off, I'm going to show you two different ways that you can set your face with a loose translucent setting powder. The one that I'm going to be using today is the Coty Airspun Loose face powder. This I got at Walmart. I don't remember the price, but I will make sure I put it up there. So this is just a plain translucent powder. When you are setting your makeup, you want to make sure you have a translucent powder because translucent powder has no color. If you're using a powder that has a tint to it, a yellow tint or a white tint or something, you are going to change the look of the makeup that's already on your face. A translucent powder isn't going to change the look, it's just going to set it. The main places that you want to focus setting with a translucent powder are the places that you lay down your concealer. So in our concealer video, we did concealer under the eyes, down the bridge of our nose, the chin, and the forehead. Those are all the highest points of your face. So the most important spot for me to set is the under eyes. The reason for this is because we don't want that under eye concealer to be creasing. So I'm going to take a quick look. It doesn't look like I have any creases, but I'm going to take my beauty blender, it's already damp, and I'm going to rebounce that out just to make sure that there are no creases, because if you set it while there's a crease, you're going to set that crease there and that crease isn't going to go away. But if you make sure that there's no creases before you set, then you shouldn't get any creases. So I mentioned before that a setting powder is going to be better for oily skin than dry skin, but for me, I always set my under eyes even with dry skin. My under eye area isn't typically my problem area for the dry skin, so I don't have too many issues with that. If you do, no matter what, even if you have oily skin or dry skin, you should be putting some type of oil or moisturizer under your eyes anyways to keep that plump and moisturized. So as long as you do that, you shouldn't have too many problems. So first off, type of brushes that you can use to set is this is just a Real Techniques contour brush, but it's a small dome shape, not dome shape, like teardrop shape, I don't know what to call this shape, brush. Otherwise, you can use a small fluffy eyeshadow brush. This is a blending brush. It's the Morphe M441, and yeah, this is a Real Techniques contour brush. So you can use just a small brush, tap into, I'm just using excess powder on the lid, tap into your powder, I tap off the excess, and then just pat it under your eye. Now you want to do the patting motion because it's going to press it into your skin. I press it in. Now this is where the smaller brush might come in handy. I think this has eyeshadow on it, so I'm not going to use it, but an eyeshadow brush would work. This comes in handy because it can get closer to the eye, like to, yeah, it can get closer to your lash line and fill in better. But this one I like as well. I'm also going to go over top of my eyelid because I did place concealer on there. That's where I generally, I prime my eyelids with concealer. All right. That is my under eye set now. So you could do that to the rest of the places that you placed your concealer down, but I'm going to show you another way of setting. This is just the basic, my everyday way of setting the face with a setting powder. If you want to, if you don't want the rest of it to smudge, you can go along the rest of the face as well. I typically do. I don't put any more on here. I just use the excess of what I put on the under eye, and I'll pack it all over the face, so then the rest of it has less chance of smudging and fading quickly as well. So that is one way of setting the face. That is just a simple, everyday, easy way of using a setting powder. Now I'm going to go a little more in depth, and we're going to bake this side of the face. So baking, you use a translucent powder as well. The difference is you let the powder set on your face for about 10 minutes. It doesn't have to be that long, 1 minute, 2 minutes. Just the longer you let it sit, the more it's going to bake. So they call it baking because when you put it on your face, the powder basically blocks the pores and doesn't allow your face to breathe anymore. So it heats up. Your body literally heats up the powder, and then it bakes it all into your skin. So that is why they call it baking. I use a damp beauty sponge. This is a beauty blender. When I bake, I press it into the powder, and then I just press it onto the under eye area. There, that's it. Now you can also go over the same places that you set the concealer before. I just go in with the access with those places. The main place to place it is right here. Then I would typically let it sit for about 10 minutes. This is a great time to do your eyeshadow, because then if you get any eyeshadow, you can just take a small brush, the same Real Techniques brush that we used on this side, and then wipe the excess powder away. But you want it to sit on your face for a little bit, get that heat built up, and let it bake into your skin. Now the difference between just setting your skin like this and letting it bake is, well, obviously this one's baking, it's sitting on your skin a lot longer, so it's going to melt more in your skin, but it's going to give your skin also a more poreless, flawless look, and it is going to make your makeup last a lot longer. So I do not do this too often because it can clog your pores and it can be very dehydrating to the under eye area. So I typically only do it when I'm going to be out for a long night, it's going to be a long day with makeup, or I just want to look like extra good that day. So it is definitely not an everyday thing, but this is. Right, so then after this sets on the skin for however long, you just take a brush, a fluffy brush, and then you dust any excess powders away. Same with this side too, because we packed it on. After you pack it on, make sure you wipe it away. I don't know if you can tell a difference in the sides of my face, if they look any different. I don't know. From here, it does look like this side looks more, I don't know how to explain it. It just looks more finished on this side. I don't know if you can tell on camera, but for me in the mirror, it looks more finished. So after I brush it away, I do the same thing and stamp everywhere else, just to make sure the rest of my face is set as well. Now that we are done with the setting powder, let's move on to setting sprays. Like I said before, you do not have to use a setting powder. You can just use a setting spray. After you're all done, you can just spray your face and call it a day. I personally like to do the powders first and then a setting spray because I feel like it makes it last a lot longer, and I feel like if I touch my face, I'm not gonna smudge the foundation. So one setting spray that I'm pretty fond of is the Morphe Continuous Setting Mist. This is a $15 setting spray, and it's got like a like a hairspray top, so it does not stop spraying. I think this is fantastic. I also use the MAC Prep and Prime Fix Plus. This one is a little more expensive, but I think this is one of my holy grail products that I don't go without, because you can use this for multiple things other than setting the face, which we will get into later. Another good one is the Urban Decay All Nighter, Kat Von D's Lock-It Setting Spray. Those are all great ones. So I'm just going to give my face a quick spritz, and all you do is after all your powders are down, you just spritz your face. Now, you don't need to spray a whole lot. I just like the feel of it. You want to make sure it dries down fast. I usually take an eyeshadow palette because I don't have a fan, and make sure it dries right away, because if you do end up getting a big spot on your face or anything, then that can actually stay and leave a circle on your face, and you don't want that. So as long as you dry it down real fast, you shouldn't have a problem. I'll spray this one quick so you can see the difference between the Morphe and the MAC. This one is just gonna continuously spray. You don't have to use a setting spray after you use your powder, but I prefer to. I think it comes out with a much better look, and it really melts everything together. All those powders that are setting on top of your face, once you spray those with a setting spray, they just really melt together, and they don't feel, it gets less cakey, I think. There are lots of setting sprays on the market, so make sure when you are looking for a setting spray that it says setting spray. Now, the MAC Fix Plus Prep and Prime, I don't think is necessarily an actual setting spray. It's not meant to make your face or the makeup last longer. This mainly just helps it all melt together, but this one is a definite setting spray. The Urban Decay All Nighter and the Kat Von D one are all setting sprays. There are some that are meant for, they're actually finishing sprays that people can get confused with a setting spray. They're meant to change the look of your makeup afterwards. These setting sprays are meant to just set your face. It won't change the look of your makeup. It will just melt it all together and set it. There are some sprays that have a dewy finish or a matte finish. Some of them may be the hybrid ones that are both a setting spray and a finisher on together, but just be aware that there are finishing sprays and setting sprays, so don't get them confused. Quick back to setting spray or setting powders quick. They do also make translucent powders in pressed powder form. The difference is one is a loose and one is a pressed powder. They do the same thing. Some people just prefer the pressed ones because they don't get everywhere. Like every time I open this, do you see that? Yeah, so that's why some people prefer the pressed powders over the setting powders. Pressed powders are definitely easier to travel with. There are other pressed powders other than translucent powders that you can use to set your concealer, like a banana powder or a brightening powder. I still like to use my translucent powder first, and then if I want to go in with a brightening powder on top of that, I will. I know it's a lot more powders, but I think that's just preference. So there are lots of options for oily skin, dry skin. Like I said, if you have really dry skin, just stick with a setting spray. If you have oily skin, setting powder. Combination skin, you can use both. Anybody can really use both. I like using both. I got an itch. I think that is it for this video. If you have any questions or if I didn't cover anything, please let me know down below in the comments, and give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Next video we are going to be talking about contouring, so we'll see y'all later. Bye.